The altimeter says 8,000 feet and falling, and the left engine is producing exactly zero of the thrust it is supposed to be producing, and the radio is giving you static on the primary frequency and something on the secondary, and your wingman is 30 seconds behind you, and the airfield is 11 miles ahead, and you have a decision to make in the next 4 seconds that your training has been preparing you for since the day you were 17 years old watching an air show in Dayton, Ohio. And a woman in a gray flight suit banked an F-16 so hard against the afternoon sky that the vapor trail looked like the world signing its name. You did not know her name. You did not need to. You knew in that moment, with the specific certainty that arrives once in a life and announces itself without asking permission, that you would do that, or you would spend the rest of your life explaining to yourself why you didn't. The altimeter says 7,200. You make the decision, not the ejection decision. The other one, the one your instructor said you would never have the nerve to make under real conditions. You were always going to prove him wrong. Level 1, the candidate. You grew up in Dayton, Ohio in a house 3 miles from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which means you grew up with the specific relationship to flight that proximity to power produces. You understood it as a fact of the physical world before you understood it as an ambition. The sound of aircraft overhead was the background score of your childhood. Your mother said you used to run outside at the sound of engines when you were 4 years old, before you could articulate what the running was toward. Your father was an aerospace engineer at Wright-Patterson who spent 30 years making aircraft systems more reliable and who had the specific relationship with precision that people develop when imprecision kills. He believed in doing things correctly on the first attempt and revising the process rather than the outcome. He taught you to play chess at 6 and expected you to think 3 moves ahead by 8 and was the kind of father whose approval was worth working for precisely because it was not freely given. He also told you when you were 16 that the military aviation program was not built for you. Not because you lacked the capability. He said this precisely. He said, the capability is not the question. The question is whether you are prepared for an institution that will require you to be twice as good to be considered half as qualified, and that will take credit for your successes and cite your gender for your failures, and that will make you prove yourself in every room you walk into for the rest of your career. He was not trying to discourage you. He was trying to make sure you understood what yes actually meant before you said it. You said, I understand. He said, I know you understand. I'm asking if you're prepared. You said, I'm going to be the best pilot they've ever produced. And then I'm going to be that again and again and again until the question stops being asked. He looked at you for a long moment. Then he said, that's going to take everything you have. You said, I know. He said, good. That conversation is the foundation of everything that follows. 3 ordinary things about you that will matter later. You keep a logbook of every flight you have ever taken, not the official one, the personal one, with notes in the margin about what the light looked like at altitude and what you were thinking on the approach. You have 7 of these logbooks. They are the most honest document of your life. You make playlists for every major event in your life and listen to them on repeat in the days before, which your roommate at the academy considered mildly concerning, and which you consider organizational. The playlist for your first solo flight was 11 songs long and ended with Aretha Franklin. You eat the same breakfast before every flight. 2 eggs, wheat toast, black coffee, because superstition and discipline are different words for the same neurological mechanism, and you are not going to apologize for either. The double-edged skill. You read aircraft and weather systems the same way your father taught you to read chessboards, not the current position but the developing position, where things are going rather than where they are. This makes you an extraordinary pilot. It also makes you extraordinarily unable to pretend you do not see where institutional situations are developing, which will be professionally costly in ways that compound. The connection being lost. Your daughter Maya, who is 2 years old when you begin flight training, who lives with your mother in Dayton while you are at bases and deployments, who you call every Sunday, and who currently believes that airplanes are magic and that her mother is the person who drives them. Maya does not know yet that the airplane is not magic. You are not ready to tell her. Level 2. The Student Pilot. Columbus Air Force Base, Mississippi. T-38 Talon Training. The aircraft that separates the pilots who are good from the pilots who are exceptional, because the T-38 does not forgive misunderstanding and does not reward approximation. You have to know exactly what you are doing, and you have to know it in real time, and the aircraft will tell you immediately, and without sentiment whether you do. You know exactly what you are doing. Your instructor is Major Dale Briggs, who has been instructing for 11 years, and who has the specific professional confidence of someone who has taught everyone from adequate to outstanding, and who has developed an efficient internal calibration for which category a new student occupies. He puts you in the exceptional category after your third flight, which he communicates not through praise but through the specific quality of his silence when you land, the silence of someone who has stopped looking for errors. There are 14 students in your cohort. 3 are women. This is presented as progress, and it is progress, and it is also a ratio that means that in every room, every briefing, every social gathering, you are doing 2 things simultaneously, the thing itself and the performance of the thing for an audience that is evaluating whether the thing is being done correctly by someone like you. Most of your male colleagues are not consciously doing this evaluation. They have been in rooms where most people look like them for their entire lives, and they have no frame of reference for what it costs to be the person who is always being evaluated for category as well as performance. You do not explain this to them. Explaining it would require you to be doing 3 things in every room instead of 2. You do not have the bandwidth. Your assigned study partner is Lieutenant Jamie Reyes, who is from El Paso and who is in the aviation program because his grandfather flew crop dusters in West Texas, and because the specific genetic configuration of someone who loves flight more than they fear it is apparently transmissible. Jamie is funny in the way that people who are genuinely secure are funny, not performing, not at anyone's expense, just observant and quick and occasionally so accurate about something ridiculous that you have to set down whatever you are holding because you cannot maintain grip while laughing that hard. Jamie and you studied together 4 nights a week. Jamie brings terrible gas station snacks and excellent tactical analysis. You bring the chessboard reading and the margin notes from your personal logbook. Between you develop an understanding of the T-38's behavioral envelope that your instructors notice and that produces, for both of you, the highest simulation scores in the cohort. On graduation day, Jamie shakes your hand and says, "Flying next to you is the safest I've ever been." And then he adds, "Also the most likely to be embarrassed by the performance differential, but I've decided to frame it as educational." You laugh genuinely. You will fly next to Jamie for the next 8 years at 3 different assignments. You will be the safest and most embarrassed he has ever been for all of them. The institution does not say you cannot be here. The institution says you are here and makes you prove, in every interaction, every briefing, every debrief, that being here was not a mistake. You prove it. You prove it again. You prove it a 3rd time. The proving does not become less necessary. You become more efficient at it. The machine is running. Level 3. The Wingman. Your first operational assignment is the 388th Fighter Wing at Hill Air Force Base, Utah, flying the F-35A. This aircraft is the most sophisticated fighter in the American inventory, and it was designed by committees and tested by engineers, and it has capabilities that are classified at levels requiring special access, and it handles in the atmosphere like an extension of intention rather than a vehicle. You love it with the specific, uncomplicated love that precise things earn from people who are built for precision. Your squadron commander is Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Voss, who is the first female fighter squadron commander you have served under, and who has the specific quality of someone who has been in every room where the question was being asked, and who has decided that the most effective response to the question is sustained excellence delivered without commentary on the asking. Colonel Voss does not talk about being a woman in this institution. She talks about the mission, the aircraft, the tactical situation, and the professional development of the pilots under her command. She demonstrates by being, rather than arguing by speaking. You watch her do this and understand it as a form of discipline that costs more than most people know. Your first combat deployment is to a region of the Middle East that I will not name specifically and that you will not name publicly for the foreseeable future. You fly 43 missions in 7 months. Most of them are what the Air Force calls non-permissive environment operations, which means you are operating in airspace where someone would prefer you were not there and has the means to express that preference with surface-to-air missiles. On your 29th mission, you make a decision in a 17-second window that your flight lead, a major named Torres who has been doing this for 12 years, says afterward was the best piece of situational reading he has seen in his career. You do not repeat this to anyone. In the institution you are in, repeating a compliment about yourself is the fastest way to have the compliment used against you. You call Maya on Sunday. She is 4. She asks if you flew today. You say yes. She says, did you go to space? You say almost. She says almost is very close to space. You say that's exactly right. She tells you about a dream she had about a purple horse, and you sit in your bunk on a forward operating base, and you listen to every detail of the purple horse, and you do not tell her anything about the 29th mission or the 17-second window, or the SAM that passed close enough that you felt the proximity in your chest before you registered it visually. You tell her the purple horse sounds wonderful. She says she's going to draw it for you. She mails you the drawing. You carry it in your flight suit pocket for the remaining 15 missions of the deployment. You do not tell anyone this. Some things you keep because the institution has already taken enough. Level 4, the flight lead.
6 years in.
You are now a captain leading your own flight of 4 aircraft. The shift from wingman to flight lead is not a shift in rank. It is a shift in the specific weight you carry because now the decisions you make in the air have direct consequences for 3 other pilots and their families and their Sunday phone calls. You understand this weight, and you carry it the way your father taught you to carry things that matter, precisely, without display, with full attention. Your flight, Jamie Reyes, who has been your study partner since Columbus, and is now your most trusted tactical judgment in the air. Lieutenant Angela Wu, who is the most analytically precise junior pilot you have supervised, and who will be a flight lead within 2 years. And Captain Derek Shaw, who is technically your 4th, and who has the specific professional confidence of someone who has been told by enough senior officers that he is exceptional that he has stopped examining whether the statement is accurate. Derek Shaw is not exceptional. Derek Shaw is good. Good and exceptional are different things, and the difference matters in the situations where the difference matters, which is to say the situations where everything else has failed, and the only thing standing between the outcome and the alternative is the quality of the pilot in the cockpit. You know this. You document what you know accurately. Your documentation will eventually become professionally inconvenient, but inaccurate documentation is not a trade you are willing to make. Your supervisor is Colonel Richard Marlowe, who has been the wing commander for 3 years, and who has the specific quality of institutional administrators who have been very successful at the administrative part of the military, and who speak about the combat part in the language of people who studied it carefully from a respectful distance.
Colonel Marlowe appréciate métrique.
Marlowe speaks in a language you have been learning to translate. When Marlowe says, let's be careful about documentation that could be misread as interpersonal conflict, he means your accurate professional assessment of Shaw threatens as metrics, and I would prefer it not exist. When Marlowe says, you might consider how your communication style lands with the team, he means Shaw complained about your evaluation, and I am choosing his comfort over your accuracy. When Marlowe says, "This program values collaborative leadership," he means, stop being right in ways that make other people look wrong. When Marlowe says, "I want to make sure you're getting the development opportunities you deserve," he means, I am about to assign you something that sidelines your advancement while allowing me to claim I supported you. When Marlowe says, "Your record speaks for itself," he means, your record speaks for itself and I am going to speak louder. You have been translating Marlowe for 2 years. You have gotten very good at it. The fluency does not make it less exhausting. The night before your most significant combat mission, a coordinated strike package that you have spent 43 days planning, that involves 6 aircraft and 3 allied nation assets, that is the most complex tactical operation of your career. You call Maya. Maya is 7 now. She has decided she wants to be a marine biologist, which you find privately wonderful because you want her to be whatever she decides, and you also want her to be someone who comes home in one piece at the end of every working day. She is specifically and enthusiastically telling you about a documentary she watched about bioluminescent creatures in the deep ocean, creatures that make their own light in the places where no outside light reaches. You are sitting in a planning room on a forward operating base with the strike package documentation spread across the table behind you. Tomorrow morning at 04:30 you will walk to that aircraft, and everything you have prepared will become real in the specific way that planning becomes real when the aircraft crosses the line of departure, and the plan is no longer a plan but a series of decisions made at speed in conditions you cannot fully predict. You might not tell Maya about all of it, ever. Maya says, "Mom, did you know there are fish so deep in the ocean that they've never seen sunlight? And they still make light. Like, they don't need it from outside, because they have it inside." You hold the phone. You think about tomorrow. You think about the 17-second window on Mission 29. You think about your father saying that's going to take everything you have. You think about the vapor trail against the afternoon sky at the Dayton Air Show and the woman in the gray flight suit whose name you still do not know. You think about bioluminescent fish. You say, "Tell me more about the light." Maya tells you about the light. You listen to every word. You do not tell her anything. The light she is describing you think is something like what flying is. The dark is very dark. You make your own light. You don't wait for it to arrive from somewhere else. You don't say this to Maya. Some things are too true to say out loud before you know whether tomorrow will allow you to say anything again. Level 5, the Squadron Executive Officer. 8 years in. You are a major. You are the executive officer of the 4th Fighter Squadron, which means you are the second-ranking officer in the squadron and the one who translates the squadron commander's intent into the operational reality of 140 people who need to know what the intent means for what they do on Tuesday. Your squadron commander is Colonel Voss, whom you have served under twice now and who has become the professional mentor you did not know you needed, and who gives you the specific gift of her honest assessment, which is rare in any institution and rarer still in this one. Voss tells you something in your 3rd month as XO that you add to the personal logbook. She says, "The higher you go in this institution, the more the institution will want from you, and the more it will offer you in exchange. The offering is real. The wanting is also real. The thing it wants at the level you're approaching is not your skills. It is your willingness to carry institutional weight that is not yours. It will dress this up as leadership, and it will feel like leadership because the weight is real. The question you have to answer before you accept it is, whose interests does this weight serve? If the answer is the mission and the people carry it. If the answer is the institution's comfort, set it down and say so clearly. You write this down. You are about to need it. Jamie is on a training exercise in Nevada, which is the kind of training that the institution calls high risk and that pilots accept as the condition of staying sharp in the skills that keep everyone alive when the training is over and the real thing begins. The call comes on a Wednesday. Your operations officer tells you, the training accident investigation is ongoing. Jamie's aircraft and the aircraft it collided with, a moment of bad geometry in airspace that is supposed to allow for this kind of thing, produced an outcome that the investigation will eventually attribute to a combination of factors, none of which includes Jamie's judgment. You say, "Thank you. I'll notify the squadron." You walk to the window in your office. You look at the flight line. You think about gas station snacks and the worst coffee and the specific quality of Jamie's laugh in a planning room at Columbus when you were both too tired and too caffeinated, and the T-38 felt like a puzzle you were both solving in real time. You think about Jamie saying flying next to you is the safest I've ever been, and you think about whether the inverse was true and whether there is a version of Wednesday that doesn't end at this window. You do not find that version. You notify the squadron. You call Jamie's family. You say what there is to say. You mean all of it. You stay on the phone until they need to go. You go home. You sit at your kitchen table. You open the personal logbook to the last entry, which is from yesterday, which describes the light at altitude during a proficiency flight and notes that the visibility was exceptional and the aircraft performed exactly as expected. You write one more line. Flying next to Jamie Reyes was the safest I ever was. You close the logbook. The machine takes and takes and takes. Level 6, the confrontation. 11 years in.
Lieutenant-colonel.
The promotion board for colonel has convened, and you have been passed over, and Marlowe's assessment of your leadership style is in your file with the specific language of institutional self-protection, collaborative concerns, communication friction, documentation anomalies. And you are in a conference room at the Pentagon with a records folder and a direct superior named General Aldrin, who has the institutional stature of someone who has been in this building long enough to confuse the building with the mission. You put the folder on the table. The folder contains 6 documented instances over 4 years in which accurate performance documentation was altered, suppressed, or characterized through language specifically chosen to undermine the documentation's accuracy. It contains Marlowe's file. It contains 2 other files. It contains a legal analysis. You say, "I am not here to threaten anyone. I am not here to negotiate. I am here because I have served this institution for 11 years with complete professional honesty, and my record has been systematically misrepresented, and I want one person in this building who is not in those rooms to know that it happened, and to know that I know." General Aldrin looks at the folder. He looks at you. He says, "Colonel Designate, this institution values the service of every officer. We want to make sure you have every opportunity to succeed." You look at him for a long moment. You say, "I know what that means." You stand up. You leave the folder. You walk out. You do not get the colonel promotion that year. You get it the following year after a different board with different members and a legal review that Marlowe does not survive professionally. This is not the story of a system correcting itself. This is the story of one person putting accurate information in front of the right set of eyes at the cost of significant professional risk, and the information doing what accurate information sometimes does when it is placed where it cannot be ignored. It is not justice. It is the thing that happens when justice is not available and accuracy is the only tool left. Level 7, the commander.
14 years in. Colonel.
You command the 388th Fighter Wing at Hill Air Force Base, which is the assignment you flew out of as a young captain, and which has a specific geography in your professional biography that feels like something resolving, though you are careful not to call it that because the work of a wing commander does not permit the kind of narrative satisfaction that resolving implies. 183 pilots. 42 aircraft. The full weight of an institution that has cost you things you name in the personal logbook and never speak aloud. You have a new XO named Captain Daniela Okafor, who is 28 years old and who reads aircraft the way your father taught you to read chessboards, and who is going to be exceptional if the institution allows her to be exceptional in the ways she is actually exceptional rather than in the ways the institution finds convenient. You sit across from Daniela in her 3rd month, and you tell her what Colonel Voss told you 12 years ago. You tell her about the weight and whose interests it serves and the question to ask before carrying it. You tell her about the logbook and the honest documentation and the folder in the conference room at the Pentagon. You tell her, the institution will try to make you smaller, not because it means to, because it was not designed for you, and it has not yet fully finished the design revision. Your job is to be so precisely, consistently, undeniably yourself that the revision has to happen around you rather than instead of you. Daniela writes something down. You recognize the quality of the writing down. You have done it yourself. The machine is running. You are running it differently than it was run before you got here. This is not a triumph. It is the honest, daily, accumulating work of being present in a room and changing the temperature of the room by being present in it. It is enough. Some days it is barely enough. Most days it is exactly what is needed. The ending. The altimeter said 8,000 feet and falling, and you brought the aircraft home on one engine. You have told this story to Daniela and to the pilots under your command not as a heroic narrative, but as a technical case study in decision-making under degraded conditions. The decision you made was to dead-stick the approach rather than eject, because the airfield was reachable and the aircraft was recoverable, and ejecting meant losing both, when losing one was sufficient. Your instructor said you would never have the nerve under real conditions. Your instructor was applying his model of you to a situation he had not been in, which is the category of error your father taught you to look for in every analysis. You know who you are under real conditions. You have known since the T-38 at Columbus. The real conditions have confirmed it 37 times since. It is a Saturday morning in October, and you are at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for an air show, and you are standing next to your daughter Maya, who is 21 now, and is in her third year of marine biology at Miami University, and who has driven up from Oxford, Ohio because she wanted to see you fly, which you are doing today in a demonstration flight that the airshow organizers have been advertising for 6 weeks. The announcer introduces you by name and rank and combat record. Maya is standing next to you, and she makes no sound, but you feel her straighten slightly beside you, the way people straighten when something confirms what they already knew. You put your helmet on. You walk to the aircraft. From the cockpit, 8,000 feet up, in the specific light of a clear October morning over Dayton, Ohio, you bank the aircraft hard against the sky, and the vapor trail traces the turn, and somewhere below you a crowd is watching, and somewhere in that crowd is your daughter. You do not know which direction she is looking. You know she is looking. You pull into a climb that presses you into your seat with the familiar, comfortable weight of altitude being claimed, and at the top of the climb you roll, and the world inverts briefly, and you can see in the canopy above your head the inverted horizon of Ohio in October, gold and brown and specific, the exact geography of where you started. And you think about your father at his desk with his engineer's precision and Colonel Voss in a planning room, and Jamie laughing in Columbus, and the purple horse drawing folded in your flight suit pocket for 15 missions, and Maya's voice on Sunday calls telling you about bioluminescent fish that make their own light in the dark. You right the aircraft. You make one more pass, low and clean, and as you pull up you think, there was a girl at this airshow once who watched a woman bank an F-16 against the sky and made a decision. She is still making it. Below you, in a crowd at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, a girl who is 9 years old watches a fighter aircraft pull against the afternoon and turns to her father and says something that her father will remember for the rest of his life. She says, "I want to do that." Her father looks at her. He asks if she knows what it would take. She says, "Everything." He says, "Then you already understand the first thing. The machine is always running. The sky does not care what you came from or how many times you had to prove it. The sky only asks, can you fly? You can fly. You have always been able to fly. You are not done flying yet.